Welcome, everybody, to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, today joined by somebody who just absolutely bailed me out of a tough spot. I'm going to stop saying anything about I didn't even say anything about a specific guest this time. This show is guestless from now on, just so I can stop jinxing the opportunity that people might be able to come on the show. George Sedano, you're dead to me. Sabrina Merchant is instead on the show here, doing me the solid of all solids. Sabrina, thank you very much for hopping on. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. First round of the playoffs has been super, super fun, and I
Oh
really
my
enjoy
gosh.
just watching it like as a fan with no real investment, and how I need, to work around it. So it's been great.
I was going to ask about that. Like, do you still have the itch? Like, do you still like as this is going on? I know that you can tweet, so that's kind of a release valve. But do you sit there and like are you just for me personally
Mhm.
in stretches over the last few years where I didn't have an outlet, I was bothering Jen a lot with like long form NBA takes. So like
Sure.
anybody sitting next to you in that room, are you just pelting them with NBA takes?
I do text a lot of people during the game. That's still happening. But no, I mean, I guess the fact that I still write about basketball, even though it's not this particular league, makes it easier for me to, get on board
Yeah.
with just having, this game to watch. Yeah.
It would also there were there were some stretches where it was kind of nice though. Like
Yeah.
I I found that, during those stretches where I wasn't really talking on here about it, I had a lot more energy to just watch. Like, it's so nice to just kind of sit back and you don't feel like you have to have a take. You
Yeah,
could
I
just
kind of
say like,
love
wow, this is
like
fun. This
yeah,
is
I love
cool.
not having my laptop, like, right next to me, and, like, I find myself, like, I get up and celebrate things, like, it's wild.
All right, what makes you get up and celebrate? What was the last moment that like got you off of the couch?
Oh, the Austin behind the back pass to Rui, that was the
It
one.
was so
Yeah,
good.
that was so good. Got off
I
the couch for
actually
that
laughed
one,
out
yeah.
loud. I like I think Raj has watched that at least 153 times by now.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful moment. I
It was
mean,
unbelievable.
I can't say I had the highest expectations of Rui Hachimura when he came over. Like, obviously, the upgrade from Kendrick Nunn to Rui was in and of itself a victory, and the fact that, like, the Lakers got a player who they could theoretically develop and maintain his contract status because they've got the opportunity to sign him to a new contract in the offseason. But he's gotten way better over the last 6 weeks, just like defensively. I think
Yeah.
his I don't know that, like, his positioning is so much better. He obviously, like, still struggled with Jaren Jackson Jr., which, like, that's fine.
Hmm.
I'm not going to judge people against the very best in our game, but
Yeah.
I just think he's so much more, like, his instincts are way better than I thought they were going to be, and it's been really fun to watch that like play out over the last few months.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about Rui. I want to talk about the Lakers in general. I have to update everybody on whether you still think the Lakers have zero chance whatsoever at winning a championship. Now, given the way that some of things are playing out, I want to talk about the playoffs as a whole. And I wanted to talk specifically about Anthony Davis, though. And I'm not meaning to like pounce on something you said, but you said like you don't hold it against Rui for not defending the very best that we have, right?
Hmm.
And I think you meant it in a general sense, like
Yeah,
Jaren is among the very best.
yeah.
But I really found out over the last like week or so, as we get ready for award season, and as apparently your employer put out a poll, asking various people around the league, including players, some questions. One of the questions, probably the question that drew the most attention. Well, I take that back. Most overrated got the most attention from me, mostly
Okay.
because somebody just said the Grizzlies, which was
The
just
Grizzlies showed up as an entity in several of the answers, which I want to believe
yeah.
that it's different players who just kept bringing them up, but it's
Oh
probably
my
just the
god.
one.
I hope it's just one person. Who do you think would be the one person?
Clay Thompson.
He he says the Grizzlies, and then he draws four fingers with
Yeah,
rings
just
on them.
yeah.
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 The
The
ringless
Kings
Grizzlies is what he's
sweep the
writing.
Warriors. That is going to be a very memeable image of Clay Thompson.
Yeah. I don't think it's. I'm hoping it doesn't happen because I need that series to go nice and long for
Right.
whoever faces the Lakers. But yeah, absolutely, that series has been just incredible. But yeah, in more serious sense, not serious, but like the poll asked a question: best defender in the NBA. Drew Holiday gets a lot of the shine there as kind of the best perimeter defender who gets all of the best perimeter votes. And then from there, you have like a whole bunch of centers who split the vote at that spot.
Hmm.
Except we don't get Anthony Davis mentioned at all in the percentage points of the poll. He got one vote on it. Jared Vanderbilt got one vote on it,
Hmm.
and I saw what he did in Game 1 against Memphis. I've seen what he's done all season with a Lakers team that isn't exactly a defensive juggernaut. And, it's wild to me that no mention really in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation when he played more minutes than the guy who won it.
Hmm.
And then in this thing gets a single vote from his peers, which is, I think, interesting in a very different sense. But I think we're arriving at a place here where, for a variety of reasons, some of them logical, Anthony Davis, I think, has a real claim as the most underrated player in the NBA.
Yeah, I was surprised that he only got the one vote among best defender because, you and I were talking about this before we went online about how some of the polls have like a lower number of voters than others, but this one had 98 votes.
Yeah,
So that's about 20% of the league when you consider two-way guys. And to only get one vote out of that, like that means five people in the league think Anthony Davis is the best defender in the league
it's
is
insane.
is wild because first of all, like he plays the most important defensive position, so he should already like get an
Yeah,
extra boost just because of that. I love watching Drew Holiday play. Obviously, I just don't think it's necessarily possible for a guard defender to have as much of an impact
yeah.
defensively as a rim protector.
Hmm.
But like, I mean, the Lakers had real crap defensive personnel around Anthony Davis for the
Yeah.
bulk of the season, right? I mean, we're talking three guards of 6'4" and smaller, usually playing alongside
Three
him
and
and
D wing
LeBron.
Patrick Beverly.
Yeah. And LeBron, his defensive intensity during the regular season is not something that we don't really talk about because it's not really present, right? Like,
Yeah, especially while like it's bad generally. Like
mhm.
he will just kind of like, oh, that sucks. I guess Luke Kennard's open. He did that in a playoff series. Like,
He did let Luke Kennard get a wide open corner three
and then
in a
like
playoff game.
earlier this year, when Russ was still on the team, that was I think when LeBron was the least engaged because he was just
Mhm.
kind of like, look, we're gonna suck. I know what this looks like. They did, and it's just like try to stay healthy for as long as possible. Do whatever winning we can while they can,
Mhm.
and then hope that a trade happens with some part of the season left where we can actually chase something here. And that's how
Right.
it kind of played out. But early on in the season, when you had LeBron playing like that, Russell Westbrook was abysmal defensively.
Mhm.
And they didn't have Vanderbilt yet. They didn't have Rui Hachimura yet. You had three, sometimes five, three, two, and at one point five guard lineups that were going out there. And yet, like the Lakers, I would still say when AD was out there, were competitive defensively, and
Oh,
that's insane.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
I think the reason why Anthony Davis didn't get a lot of love for like defensive player of the year is because you generally want to be anchoring a top five defense if you're defensive player
Hmm.
of the year. And that was not what the Lakers were. I think
No.
they probably were about 12th, 13th, depending on like whether you look at NBA.com or Clearing the Glass. And I can see why, like season wide, he's not getting the credit because like he did have stretches where he was unable to play and where he was less effective. And then, just the overall body of work, I understand why voters wouldn't want to reward a player who is on a middling defense, right?
Hmm.
But like you said, I mean, they're so much better when Anthony Davis is on the court. Like he is just a destroyer of worlds, like to borrow a word from our friend Aaron, right? Like just the way that he's able to switch on to guards, the fear that he like incites into drivers that are coming into the lane, his ability to like contend with bigs too. He doesn't get out muscled or anything. Uh, I don't really understand why there isn't more love for him as a great defender. Like the all defense voting is what it is. Like, it's positional. He's probably not going to be the second best center just based on the love that like Brooke Lopez and Evan Mobley
Joel
and et
Embiid.
al. Are going to get, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, I think there's a very reasonable case for him to be the second team all defense, just based on the fact that Brooke played a lot more and Milwaukee had a better defense. But yeah, I don't really understand that at all. Like, I understand the jokes that are made at Anthony Davis's expense. I don't really agree with them, but like, and parts of his offensive game are frustrating to watch. But in terms of a defender, I don't really know what more you could expect out of the guy. And that's already setting like the fact that we have such high expectations for him and he meets those. So I'm with you. The poll about the best defender, I'm not really sure why there was such a lack of love for him. Maybe like this was conducted earlier in the year when he was out, but like I'm struggling with it.
Yeah, I think the why is more interesting here than the results, right? The results are the results, you know, and it can be explained one way or another. Like you said, it depends on when the poll was actually taken. Like also, like you're saying, I think it's a really good point regarding the caliber of defense. The guys who were getting votes were what defenses those were coming from, and that's going to matter. And I kind of feel like, look, I don't think NBA players get this poll and they go when they look at like roster construction and they go like somehow I don't necessarily think that they're going to go and check on I don't know, defensive D-WAR, right? Or VORP or whatever. I don't know any of those stats.
Yeah.
And
it's probably just you survey a little guy and he's like, who's the toughest guy that guards me? Jrue Holiday, right? And there are more little guys than big guys these days.
That's probably true. I think that's a really good point too. And yeah, so like there's a lot that would maybe lead to this playing out the way it did. But like usually when you talk about players, there's a lot of reputation. Remember for a long time, like Kobe probably was on maybe like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 all defense teams that he probably shouldn't have been on, you know? And like even in this one, you know, the GOAT conversation comes up, right? And Michael wins running away. LeBron also gets mentioned, but Kobe is the other guy who gets actual percentage points in the graph. You know, like NBA players look at the world a certain way. And I think a lot of these results do kind of paint a picture on what guys around the league are saying about Anthony Davis. And it's wild to me that, you know, you would think let's look at it this way. If AD was still in New Orleans, do you think he probably receives a few more votes, right?
Assuming he was playing the same way, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, if obviously the last couple of years, the way it played out, the Lakers have just been pretty bad. They haven't been relevant, and so that's also going to be a factor here. But it's kind of crazy that somebody, yeah. But it's kind of crazy that like somebody is talented. Like usually with NBA players, talent wins out. Like that's why I don't really always trust them voting on all-star stuff and on
terrible answers for
awards and stuff. Yeah, because what it comes down to is like hoopers. It's real hoopers Twitter. And AD has all of that talent, and his impact matches that talent defensively. And it's kind of wild that he's not getting that talent respect. Do you have any theories on why that might be the case?
I mean, I think there's a general perception that AD's a little soft. I think he's more open about pain that he feels, you know, like he doesn't really sugarcoat any of it. If he's hurt or, you know, struggling with something,
I can't move my arm.
He talks about it. Yeah. Like we know what is happening with Anthony Davis. And I mean, you'd think that players would have more sympathy for that, considering all of the demands that it takes to play this sport, like in the current age, and the fact that so many of them are sitting out more and more games just based on like, you know, protecting their health and things like that.
Yeah, NBA players calling anybody soft at this point.
It's weird. Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think that's part of it. I think part of it is also that, you know, Anthony Davis came in with the highest of expectations when he was drafted out of Kentucky. And he's had a very successful career. I mean, he was top 75, right? And I'm still not sure that he lived up to those expectations. So it's kind of just like the pedestal that he was originally at was so high to begin with that it's hard to give him credit for what he's accomplished because he didn't meet that mark, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I think that context really matters. I really think there's a lot of like LeBron isn't going to get the backlash for the way that AD got to LA, right? Like LeBron, even though LeBron helped facilitate it, it was very much like sorry, spoiler alert for everybody listening, but like that was it was a clutch thing. LeBron was pulling a lot of those strings too,
And he was
and
talking about players leaving the Lakers as they were sitting next to him in the locker room.
right, and so like you had you have that kind of going on, but like LeBron has so much respect around the league, and like let's be frank, a lot of power around the league that I don't think players are really gonna it's I don't even think I need to add I don't think players are not going to hold him accountable for the way that he pulls strings around the league because they know at any point he can pull the right string and have them moved across the country, right? And I think what that leads to is any animosity that exists out there for the way things went down that led to LeBron and AD teaming up in LA. I do think AD is going to catch all of that heat. And I think it's not just around the league with players. I think the media really feel this way too. Like you just don't it's crazy to me that media like what's his name? Andy Larson, right? From Utah, right? The guy who covers the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
He caught a lot of heat for giving Walker Kessler a vote for rookie of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. And that stopped Paolo Banchero from winning unanimously. And that
Have they already announced it?
or at that point, I think
Did
at
I
that
miss
point
it?
it was I think at that point it was unanimous, and maybe I really hope it winds up being only Andy who votes for Walker Kessler. I think that'd be hilarious.
I think it's a reasonable vote, but yeah.
I don't. But like you see, so essentially the point I'm making here about Andy, I'm not dunking on him for it. Is like he put a lot of thought into it, right? And like he, based on what he looked at, Utah did a lot more winning this year. Walker was one of the better defenders, especially at his position this year.
Got as many best defensive player votes as Anthony Davis in that
Crazy.
anonymous player
Yeah.
poll.
Yeah, and so like media in particular are going to pay a lot of attention and really pay a lot of mind to their votes, the way that it plays out. Every single person that I know who have a vote here, when I ask them about like, which way are you leaning and stuff, I got to get ready for like a 15-minute answer because they think about this stuff a lot. After Howard Beck was on the show, a couple weeks ago or whatever, he and I spoke for another like 10, 15, 20 minutes afterward because I wanted to, pick his brain about the defense that he made for NBA voters or MVP voters and why he thinks that voter fatigue isn't a thing.
Right.
And so like they do care about this stuff a lot. They think about this stuff a lot. And I'm sorry, but if you're thinking about this a lot and you're not landing in any way, shape, or form on Anthony Davis being one of the most impactful defenders in the league, then there's a blind spot there.
Right.
It doesn't really make much sense to me. And I'm wondering if you think we might ever see a reversal of that, if we might ever see a correction on that, where like, is it going to take the Lakers making a long playoff run to remind everybody, oh yeah, that's right? Because I saw a lot of that on Twitter. Oh yeah, that's right. That AD guy is really good on defense.
Well, I do think it's, fair that Anthony Davis hasn't played in a lot of meaningful games in the last 3 years, right? Like they did make it to the playoffs in 2021, but he gets hurt in game 4, tries to come out, I want to say for 5 or 6, but like really doesn't do anything. So he played, 5 postseason games when we count the play-in. And then a year of just decrepit Lakers basketball, right?
Yeah.
And another 2/3 of a season that was basically
that he played a role in.
Yeah.
Like
of course.
I think the
like,
Russell thing, kind of like we talked about with LeBron and the animosity there that exists there, AD catches heat for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's not faultless in the fact that he hasn't played any meaningful games in the last 3 years, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
and just getting back on the big stage, which is such a weird thing to say for a guy who plays for the Los Angeles Lakers and is on national TV at least 35 times a year.
Yeah.
That matters. So I do think that in a way, like him producing now, however long the Lakers playoff run happens to go, is like an investment in his awards stature for next year, because people are
Yeah.
always including the postseason in their discussions when they're not supposed to. Like, this is a regular season award that we're deciding on, but everyone
Yeah.
always mentions that. So I do think that this is, inadvertently going to help his case for 23-24.
I do really wish they would just attach regular season to all of the awards. Like regular season MVP, regular
It is
season
a regular
all in.
season MVP.
Well, yeah, but like but with the way that people talk about it, and also like when you say MVP, like it holds more weight than just a regular season. Also, the regular season is clearly meaningless. We look at this stuff, the fact that the NBA is trying to stick some tournament in the middle of it to get people like, hey guys, we're still going in like November. Just a heads up. Like, we actually start in October, not in February.
I've always thought of October as like the NBA's soft opening, and then Clippers is like, and not Christmas is like their grand opening,
Have you ever been to like a restaurant's soft opening?
I have not.
So Jen and I and Avery accidentally went to one
Okay.
out here. There's this one spot that like about 15 minutes away from us that for whatever reason the building is like cursed. Since we've been here, there have been 4 in this house. So in 2 years, there have been 4 different restaurants in there. Post COVID, everything is like everything else around it is steady. It's the only building that for whatever reason can't keep a tenant. So we go there one time and it at this point had just turned into a sushi restaurant. And you can imagine in the middle of Texas, good sushi can be kind of hard to come by.
Sure.
And so I say to Jen, like, hey, there's a new sushi restaurant. Let's go check it out. See if it's any better than the other ones that we've been going to. Because it's just like, there is really good sushi, but you have to pay like crazy amounts for it. It's not like California where like you can go to a mom and pop sushi shop, not spend $300 on a California roll and still get like really good sushi. Out here, it's just insane. You either get crap or you pay an insane amount of money for it. So I was hoping that it would be, somewhere in between. I don't mind spending a little bit of money on sushi. I don't want like cheap sushi is like actually terrifying.
Gas station sushi, right?
So we go there. And it was actually a really cute spot. Like they had redecorated and it looked really cool. They actually made a chicken finger roll that like they wrapped soy paper around, and then like they had they prepped ketchup and a little soy sauce and like it was just everything about it was really cool. And I asked like, hey, do you guys have nigiri? Because that's usually what I go for. I don't really do rolls much. And the guy goes, oh no, sorry man, we're actually in a soft opening. I don't know how you guys are actually here. And I go, I was like, you let us in. Like you sat us down. Like I don't know what the deal is here. And he goes, oh yeah. Anyway, no, we don't have that quite yet. And I was like, so that was, I didn't mean to say like as like a flex. Like we like accidentally wandered into a soft opening, and I don't think they ever officially opened. Somehow with that kind of tableside manner from the waiter, it didn't go very well. But anyway, I find this whole thing with AD fascinating, and I part of why obviously for selfish reasons I want the Lakers to go far, just because I want the Lakers to go far,
right?
But like I really think AD is a lot more cognizant of this stuff than your average player. I think like he takes a lot to heart. Harrison always says that he's probably his favorite person to like hear from the Lakers and favorite player to interact with from the Lakers, because he is a very thoughtful guy. Kyle Goon on the show right after he left for his next gig said the same thing, that like AD is just such an interesting, nuanced, fascinating character who really does think about this stuff. And I think like you mentioned, him trying to play in that playoff series, despite like everybody could see he didn't have it.
Right.
And that had everything to do with street clothes being his nickname and the way that the NBA on TNT guys talk about him. And I really like, I do probably think he sees the results of that poll today, and he's probably sitting there saying like, what the fuck? Walker Kessler? Like,
No, I'm looking at this list, and granted, you know, it's only like 98 or whatever on the list, 98 voters, but just like I don't think Bam Adebayo is like a markedly better defender than Anthony. I don't think he's a better defender.
No.
First of all, I don't think Brook Lopez is a better defender than Anthony Davis. Marcus Smart,
No.
for crying out loud, is not a better defender than Anthony Davis. Lou Dort being second is objectively hilarious.
Yeah,
like
that's how you know a lot of perimeter players were voting.
yeah.
Like getting guarded by that guy sucks. I don't want like.
I'm sure it sucks. He's not a rim
Yeah.
protector. Like it makes a difference, but
Yeah. All right, let's move on then. I do hope, like I said, that the narrative shifts on AD because I think it matters to him, and because like he's also really effing good, and I think he should be rewarded for playing this entire season. Like in terms of the narrative about him, all I've been asking for him, the thing that's been driving me absolutely insane with the AD experience the last couple of years, has been this disinterest in playing the position that he's actually best at, right? He's wanted to be the power forward, and it's bonkers. And I always kind of thought like, okay, that's
they won a
signaling to
title with
everybody.
him starting at power forward. So
Yeah, but like, where did he start in the game clinching game?
One game, Anthony.
Game 6. I'm pretty sure he started at center in the one that they were up by 40 in.
They were just a fantastic regular season team playing, you know, like they actually cared about it with him at power forward. But yeah, I concede your point.
You and Darius are the only two people on the face of this planet who I feel like I have to argue this with. He's better at center, like he just is.
The way the game is continuing to evolve, yeah, he's definitely better at center.
Yeah, but like to his credit, he played I think 100% of his minutes this year at center. And it's all I've been asking for. And it's all that the league, with the like you're talking about, the direction of the league, the evolution of the sport is demanding him do. He does it. He's very impactful doing it. And we're not seeing it like result in the way that the conversation I think should result in about him. And I really think what it's going to wind up coming down to is the Lakers, you know, winning at least a series, depending on who they play in the second round too. And then from there, he would probably have to play Denver and face up against Jokic. And I think that is finally when people start to, like, heading into next season, say, oh, yeah, that guy's pretty good. It's just really stupid. It's going to take that. But speaking of that kind of a run, since the last time you and I spoke, the Lakers have won a road playoff game. The Golden State Warriors have lost 2 road playoff games, the team that I think a lot of people think would knock off the Lakers before they get to the conference finals. Denver looks incredible. So like that I think needs to be taken into account. Giannis has gotten hurt. He's going to miss, or has already missed, his second game.
Miss game 2. Yeah. I don't know that he's officially ruled out yet, but
yeah, I think they called him doubtful.
Okay. Yeah.
Last time I checked. So that would potentially make the matchup in the finals maybe a little bit easier. Maybe they face Boston instead of him, or maybe they play Philly instead of him. Both of those teams I think are quite a bit worse than Milwaukee, in my opinion. So the path potentially, and the team that the Lakers are playing in their current series might be without their best player, John Morant, might miss game 2. So I thought the last time you spoke, or the last time we were on here, I said I think the Lakers have like a slimmer of a chance. I think that slimmer is widened a little bit at them winning a championship. You shut that down. I felt like Raj. I felt like it was just like, here's my hopes and dreams. And it was just like, poof, that's it. Any update on that front?
Okay, well, first things first. If you had to put a percentage chance on it of the Lakers winning the title, what number are we ballparking here?
Okay, so I bet on it when it was plus 2,000. It was like a 5% chance, right? I think now we're sitting at like 7.5%, maybe 10% would be my guess.
Okay, 7.5%, maybe 10%. All right. I am still at a 0. So So the gap is widened.
You're so
between you
good
and
at
me.
crushing dreams. You do it with a smile.
Like, I'm not here to tell you that my predictions are usually right. Okay, you can look at my bracket for March Madness and just laugh at all of the things I got wrong last month, but I'm
Somehow
still
you weren't alone. Like, you
Yeah,
look
I
at
know,
the
right?
Final Four. I don't think.
I'm not in the business of picking the Lakers unless LeBron looks like LeBron, because
Mhm.
for everything that we just talked about with Anthony Davis, I don't think that he is a number one offensive player for you to win a title. I just don't
Mhm.
think that's his game. Like, it relies too much on the Lakers properly featuring him, which can be a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
Getting the ball to him, and when he looks great on offense, like, it's incredible. And like, I know they have that Western Conference playoff MVP award now, and had that existed in 2020, I feel like Anthony Davis would have gotten it for the first 3 rounds before they got to the finals. Like, he was that good in the bubble,
Yeah.
but I'm just not sure he's the number one option on offense. And for, as many times as I have watched the Austin Reeves pass Rui Hachimura, I don't think Austin is that guy just yet. So
Yeah.
you kind of need LeBron to be that guy, and I just need to see more from LeBron before I give the Lakers a chance.
I get that. The only thing here that, and actually this is why I think right after the deadline, or the soonest after the deadline that I could record with somebody, Harrison and I spoke, and I asked the question: can the Lakers win a championship? That was way back then. That was late February, maybe early March, um, and the reason I said yes was because I think that the Lakers, because of D'Angelo Russell, because of Austin Reeves, and because of LeBron, have enough diversity socially. No, I'm kidding. But in terms of creativity,
We still don't really have European players on this roster. Like, we had the Gasols and treated them very poorly, and it's not dipped into that well since.
The Lakers are real Hooper Twitter. Like,
I know, right?
I really think that, like, D'Angelo Russell as your secondary creator gives a lot of pop, right? Austin Reeves as your tertiary creator. I mean, especially after game one. Okay, all right, that's a good role for him. And those guys being able to operate in those roles with the best player on the other team defensively guarding LeBron really makes those guys better. So for me, I look at it like, yes, at some point LeBron is going to have to turn a corner.
Yes.
Like, he can't right now in
literally
isolation
and metaphorically.
Yeah, like I mean literally. I don't mean metaphorically. Like, he was guarded by Karl Anthony Towns on the perimeter, and he was taking pull-up threes. And that's somebody not trusting his body. Either he was exhausted because he had played 40 some odd minutes before he got to late in the fourth quarter there, and into overtime. Or like he just doesn't have that step. And that, look, Karl Anthony Towns, fine player, all that stuff. Not exactly, Jared Vanderbilt on the perimeter. Like,
I was hoping you'd take a more random name from the best defensive player poll.
I know, not exactly
Andrew
Marcus
Nembhard
Smart.
on the perimeter.
Yeah, Marcus Smart's defensive player of the year, like, that's going to age really poorly. I
think it already has, but yeah,
that was immediate getting that one wrong. Sorry, Howard. But like I look at what the Lakers secondary and tertiary creators can do in a vacuum, not even counting that they would be going against guys that I think other teams might be hoping to hide
right
elsewhere. And I do think that that's a weakness that the Lakers can really exploit all the way up to a certain point. I think it's good in the first round. Obviously, I think they're gonna get out of this series against Memphis. So should they stay healthy, relatively easily. I think this is a 5 or 6 game series. Second series, man, trying to score with Sacramento sounds exhausting. Seems exhausting.
Yeah.
But like LeBron, if there's one thing LeBron has always been really good at, it's been taking the air out of the ball, and forcing the game to slow down. And I don't know if Sacramento can handle that. Like, I've actually been pretty surprised at how bad the Warriors have been at trying to slow down the game, given how short their rotation is.
Yeah,
which
but it's not their
maybe,
style of play.
yeah, I guess that's true. Like, yeah, they're kind of like an older dog, basically. Like an older dog once the family gets a puppy, and the older dog's like, "Oh hell yeah, that's great, let's go play," and the other dog's still running around, and then eventually you look off in the corner, and the older dog's just like, "This sucks. He never stops running." Um, and yeah, like yeah, that's been an interesting matchup. I think against Denver, that's where
We're
LeBron
ruling
needs to
out
be
Phoenix
LeBron.
and the Clippers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Phoenix for sure. Maybe the Clippers. Clippers against Denver.
Denver has historically done well with that matchup.
Yeah, because Zubats has zero chance whatsoever against Jokic. And
It's the whole package, really. But yeah.
yeah, and well, the one thing, yeah, especially if Lou was going to continue to lean on Russ, like I thought it was funny the other night where Russ was like, he grabs 2 offensive rebounds late, and everybody's like, see, he figured it out. Sure, he went 3 for 19 or whatever it was, but look at Russ,
Exactly,
winning
3 for
basketball
19,
player. It was, I somehow I don't think they're going to do very well if he keeps shooting 3 for 19. But yeah, Denver has been so much better than everybody in the Western Conference this year when they've tried, and we saw it again in Game 1. I think that's going to continue to play out. So, and I would still take Denver in that if the Lakers play them in the playoffs, mostly because of what you're talking about with LeBron. I do think at some point LeBron is going to have to be able to score in isolation and force a double team to come his way. And if we get to a point where teams are okay guarding him on an island, that's where the Lakers are really going to struggle. That's where I don't know what they know what to do.
Yeah, I think you brought up an important thing in that the best defender is still getting LeBron, right? Like
Yeah.
the rest of the Lakers are still benefiting from the fact that LeBron's reputation means you have to have Dylan Brooks guard him, right? Like you have to have Andrew Wiggins or Harrison Barnes or whoever the team's best wing perimeter defender is on him. He still earns that even if he hasn't looked as explosive or dynamic as Austin Reeves or even Dennis Schroeder recently, right? Like
weird to say.
He hasn't.
he's no Austin Reeves. This LeBron guy is all right, but he's no Austin Reeves.
Half court creation, right? He just doesn't have the same explosiveness.
Yeah.
He just doesn't.
Yeah, you're right. It's just a funny thing to hear said out
and
loud.
I part of me is really interested in this democratic offensive approach where, the team can benefit from having, multiple guys who can create at any given moment. But then I look at the history of title winners and they all have an apex predator killer. And I think only LeBron on this current roster is capable of getting there this year.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he can get there when he still needs foot surgery. So that's where I land.
So I just looked over and Charles Barkley and Shaq were like air humping. So that was interesting. But yeah, I'm telling you, it was weird moment.
I'm not watching this.
Yeah. I agree that like hoping that the Lakers' versatile approach wins out against the history of champions, right? That's a lot to hope for. And especially when that versatile approach is D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. Nothing against those guys.
Right.
But it isn't like Dwayne Wade when he was the secondary creator in Miami.
We saw D'Lo crap out in the playoffs against this very Memphis team last year, right? Like, we haven't even seen the Lakers win 2 games. Like, we've been talking about this in our Slack for the past few days, how this is very much a play with their food kind of team, right? We saw how they came out against Minnesota.
They're totally losing tomorrow or tonight.
Yeah, we saw how they came out against Minnesota, a team that was missing Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid and had just suffered the indignity of a public fight on their bench. And they spotted this team a 15-point lead in the third quarter, right? Like, the pattern of behavior that we've seen from the Lakers does not indicate to me that they're capable of taking this seriously for long enough, especially because the tone has to be set by your best player, right? And I know LeBron is trying to set a tone, but he can't do it the same way in his current physical condition. So, I mean, it'd be super cool if Anthony Davis rose to the occasion and was actually the alpha for this team. And I think he can be the best player in a series, maybe not the best offensive player in a series, but like on balance, if you consider both sides, he can absolutely be the best player in a series, in a final series. I definitely believe that to be true. It's just you just need somebody to like score those baskets at the end and direct the offense at the end. And I'm glad that Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell were able to do it in this particular fourth quarter against a compromised Memphis team. But that's not enough for me to believe that they can do it against, Boston or Milwaukee.
Yeah. Until they do. And,
Until they do. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I'll happily eat my words, like by all means.
Oh, no. The Lakers
did
won.
better than I thought.
That's always so funny that people hold against, like they'll think, like, back when the Lakers were bad, objectively bad, and I was pointing out that they were bad, people would think like I was rooting for the Lakers to be bad. Like, no. My job's so much better. It's so much easier. More people listen when the Lakers are good.
I haven't rooted for the Lakers to be bad since the end of the 2016 season, I want to say, when we were still, trying to keep that pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think 17 was the year where they went on that 5-game winning streak at the end of the year for no good reason. That was the last time I rooted for the Lakers to be bad.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sabrina, for hopping on again. You have to check out her coverage of the WNBA over at The Athletic. It's really good stuff. The WNBA just had their draft, and are the Sparks going to be like okay this year? Like,
I mean, maybe a playoff team.
All right. All right. Do they have a practice facility? Do they?
I don't know where they're practicing yet. That is to be determined.
I think that's how I'm gonna end every appearance of yours on the show, is asking, do the Sparks have a practice facility yet? And we'll see where they land.
I mean, the business of the WNBA is a fascinating exercise right now, and that's one of the things that I keep writing about. So,
did they? I did see that they're working on getting charter flights as part of the new CBA.
So it's not a new CBA, but just one of the adjustments for this upcoming season is for like specific back-to-backs and travel across multiple time zones. Teams will have charter flights. So I think it's like a few instances over the course of the regular season, and then every playoff game will have charter flights.
Progress.
Yeah.
Progress. Even though this coming on the heels of the women's national championship game outrating any number of men's sporting events.
Yep.
We're still talking about this as progress. But hey.
Hey, but they have charter flights at the college level.
Jeez. All right. Thank you very much, Sabrina. Anything that you want to plug, though, before we get you out of here?
I don't know, just in general, the WNBA season doesn't start until May 19th, but I'll be writing about, the college basketball offseason up until then and some WNBA preseason stuff at The Athletic. So check it out. All
right. Thank you very much. You absolutely bailed me out of a big spot. Sedano, I swear if I ever see you in person, I will end you. Talk to you soon.